I was dead set on spending Friday night exactly how I wanted. Beer in hand, couch under me, and a replay of the '09 Longhorns game already queued up. The week had drained me dry. I'd spent days pouring concrete in 95-degree heat, cursing the sun and a busted air compressor. The only thing that kept me going was the thought of doing absolutely nothing when the weekend hit. But Lena had other plans. She stepped out of the bedroom in a red dress that caught the light like it was asking for trouble. Not a cute sundress, not something casual. This dress was tight, dramatic, the kind that didn't whisper for attention. It screamed it. Her makeup was done in that way that made her eyes sharper, her mouth fuller, like she was about to step onto a stage. I hadn't seen her wear anything like that in years, at least not for me. "We're going out," she said, grabbing her earrings from the nightstand. "Max told me about this new place downtown. Signal. Supposed to be wild like New York or LA energy. Come on, Alex, it'll be good for us." I stared at her from the couch, still in my work jeans and a faded tank, already feeling like I'd lost the argument before I even opened my mouth. "I thought we were staying in," I said, rubbing my eyes. "You said you'd let me rest tonight." "You've forgotten how to live," she shot back, slipping on her heels. "We both have. We used to be fun. We used to be spontaneous. Remember that?" The way she said it, like she was trying to convince herself more than me, hit different. I gave in. Honestly, I didn't have the energy to fight her on it. And maybe, just maybe, she was right. Maybe this night out would shake off whatever had been growing between us these last few months. But the second we walked into Signal, I knew I'd made a mistake. Place was loud, not just loud, deafening. Walls pulsed with purple and blue lights, every surface reflecting someone else's idea of a good time. People were packed in tight, dancing, yelling over the music like it was their last night alive. This wasn't Austin. Hell, this wasn't anywhere I belonged anymore. Our usual crowd was already at a corner booth. Max was his usual self, loud, animated, already a few drinks in. Sarah gave Lena a long hug, the kind that made me feel like an outsider in my own life. There were others too, faces from past gatherings, co-workers of Lena's maybe, people she greeted with kisses on cheeks and effortless charm. From the moment we walked in, Lena was electric. She lit up like someone had flipped a switch, laughing louder than she needed to, touching people's arms when she talked, tossing her hair like it was all part of the act. I stood there with a drink in my hand, smiling when I was supposed to, nodding when expected, but I couldn't shake the feeling in my gut, the one that tells you you're standing in the middle of something that used to be yours and now you're just watching. Every time I tried to join the conversation, Lena would cut in. Not in a mean way, not exactly, but enough to make it clear I wasn't the one people came to see. She made a joke about my work boots when I sat down, said I must have come straight from the job site. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But it felt like chewing glass. Then came the phone. Buzzed once in her purse. Then again a few minutes later. And again. Each time she pulled it out, glanced at the screen, smiled. One of those quiet, secret smiles, and then tucked it away without a word. Not once did she show me the screen. Not once did she mention who it was. Just slipped it back into her purse like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. We'd had fights before, like any couple. Stupid ones. About dishes. About how I didn't listen. About how she was too quick to snap. But this night felt different, and I wasn't even in the room. She was putting on a performance, and I was just the poor idiot cast as the dull husband she had to drag around. Some point, midnight maybe, who knows, I started to check out. Not on purpose. I just drifted. My body was still at the table, but my mind was elsewhere, probably back on the couch where I should have stayed. I nursed a beer I didn't want, trying to remember the last time Lena had touched my hand without an audience watching. That's when she stood up, glass in hand, smile already forming. She tapped a fork against the rim and cleared her throat. "I want to make a toast," she announced. The group quieted down. I sat up a little, unsure of what was coming next. To my husband, she began, eyes twinkling with something I couldn't name. Alex, the most patient man in the world. The kind of man who doesn't say a word when I'm 10 minutes late. Or when I change plans last minute. Or when I take an hour getting ready. He just waits. Always waits. Laughter. Max clapped. Someone whistled. Lena turned back to me, still holding her glass. Seriously, though, it's like living with a monk sometimes. So calm. So zen. Like he's been meditating through our entire marriage. More laughter. But not from me. I didn't move. Didn't say a word. Just stared at her, then at the others, all of them looking at me like I was the punchline to a joke they'd heard before. Lena sat back down like nothing had happened and went back to her drink. A few minutes later, I excused myself and stepped outside, needing air. The noise. The lights. The bass thumping from inside. The buzz of her phone still going off in her purse. It had all gotten too loud. And then it came. A message from her. Relax. It's just a night out. Don't be so dramatic. And in that moment, everything clicked. The phone. The dress. The way she floated through the night like I wasn't even there. That toast, it wasn't about celebrating me. It was about putting me in my place. About showing everyone who she really was now. And who I wasn't. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or throw the damn thing into the street. This wasn't just a night out. It was something else. I should have gone home then. Should have called a cab and left her there to finish her performance without an audience. But I didn't. Maybe I wanted her to follow me outside. Maybe I wanted her to see how much it hurt. Maybe I was still holding on to the idea that she'd look at me and see the guy she married. The guy who poured every ounce of himself into making her happy. But she didn't come. After 10 minutes of standing there like an idiot, I walked back inside. The music felt louder now. Sharper. Like it was drilling into my skull. The group had moved to a different booth. Lena was already wrapped up in some new story, her hands flying as she laughed at something Sarah said. Nobody noticed I'd been gone. I didn't even sit down. Just went straight to the bar and ordered a water, something to keep my hands busy. I sipped it slowly, watching Lena from across the room. She was radiant, no denying that. She always had this energy that pulled people in like gravity. But watching her now was like watching a stranger. Someone polished, practiced. Someone who could command a room with a look but couldn't meet her own husband's eyes for more than 2 seconds. Her phone buzzed again. This time she checked it under the table. Quick glance. A smirk. Then back into her bag. I don't know why that moment hit me so hard, but it did. Maybe it was the ease of it. The comfort she had with hiding things. Like she'd done it before. Like it wasn't even something she had to think about anymore. I stayed another hour. Don't ask me why. Maybe I was still hoping she'd give me something. A look, a touch, a reason not to feel the way I was feeling. But none of that came. Every time our eyes met, she looked right through me. And that's when it hit me. She didn't care that I was hurt. She liked it. She wanted me to squirm. Wanted me to remember that she still held the cards. Eventually, Max got too drunk and started shouting over the music. That was my cue. I walked back to the table and tapped Lena on the shoulder. She turned, eyebrows raised, like she was surprised I still existed. I'm heading out. Picking up her phone, I stood up and walked toward the bathroom, my pulse steady but heavy like a drumbeat in my ears. I pressed my hand against the door, not knocking, just feeling the warmth of the steam curling out from underneath it. I could hear her humming softly a tune I didn't recognize, casual, unconcerned, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just shattered something we spent years building and then acted like it was nothing. I gripped her phone. Tighter, something inside me twisting, the kind of ache that doesn't feel sharp at first, just deep like a bruise that hasn't surfaced yet. I could just walk away. That thought flickered across my mind, quick and tempting. I could put the phone back, sit back down, and let the night keep swallowing me whole, pretend I never saw what I saw, let myself believe the parts of her I loved were still real. But then I remembered the look in her eyes when she saw me sitting there, the way she didn't flinch, the way she just said, "Oh," like it was nothing, like I was nothing. My thumb hovered over the screen before I pushed the door open just enough to step inside. The mirror was fogged over, her silhouette blurred behind the shower curtain. I moved quietly, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't know what I would say yet. Maybe I wouldn't say anything. Maybe I just needed to see what she looked like when she realized I wasn't who she thought I was anymore. She turned when she felt the shift in the air, the curtain sliding open just a fraction. Her eyes met mine, then dropped to the phone in my hand, and for the first time all night I saw something real flash across her face. Not guilt, not even fear, but recognition, like she knew, like she had been waiting for this moment just as much as I had. I stood up, phone in hand, and walked quietly up the stairs. The water was still running. I stood outside the bathroom, waiting. When the door finally creaked open, she stepped out, wrapped in a towel and steam. She jumped when she saw me. "What the hell are you doing?" she asked, clutching the towel tighter. I didn't say anything. I just held up the phone and reached for her hand. Her eyes went wide. "Are you serious? Open it." "No." "I'm not asking." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Then, slowly, reluctantly, she extended her thumb and pressed it to the screen. The phone unlocked with a soft click. I turned and walked back downstairs, leaving her dripping in the hallway. Back on the couch, I opened the chat app again. It wasn't just D. There were other names too. Threads filled with emojis, photos, messages that didn't leave much to the imagination. But I didn't go down that rabbit hole. I stuck with D, the one she'd been talking to at the bar. The one who got the private smile. The laugh that used to belong to me. I scrolled through their messages from earlier that day. Him asking what she was wearing. Her sending a selfie, not explicit but definitely not something you send to someone who doesn't know you intimately. Him calling her babe. Her replying, "You know who I wish I was with tonight?" I felt sick. I kept scrolling. Photos of them together. A beach trip I didn't know about, one she told me was a company retreat. A concert I thought she went to with Sarah, the tickets I paid for. A hotel booking charged to our shared card. I opened my banking app. There it was. In black and white. She came downstairs eventually, dressed in sweats, arms crossed, defensive. "Feel better?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I'm done pretending I don't see it." She didn't respond. Just stood there, shifting from foot to foot. I didn't blow up. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything or ask her how she could do this. I didn't have it in me. I was past all that. Something inside me had gone quiet, like a fuse had blown and taken all the emotion with it. "I want answers," I said. She finally sat down. Not too close, but not across the room either. She looked tired. Not guilty. Tired, like the mask she wore had started to crack, and holding it together was too much work. "It wasn't planned," she said. "It just happened." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was such a predictable line. "Don't insult me." She winced but didn't correct herself. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Bullshit," I said. Not loudly. Just firmly. "You planned a weekend with him. You covered it up. Used our money." She looked down at her hands. "How long?" She hesitated. "A few months. Be honest." She didn't answer right away. Then, since January. January. 8 months. 8 months of lying. Of waking up next to me. To telling me she was tired, busy, not in the mood. 8 months of looking me in the eye and pretending she was still my wife. "Why?" I asked. "'Cause I needed to hear it." She shrugged. "I don't know. Things got boring. Predictable. I felt like I was disappearing." "So, your solution was to sleep with someone else?" "I didn't plan to sleep with him. It started with texts and then drinks and..." Don't. I cut her off. Don't walk me through it. Silence hung between us. I shook my head, leaning back on the couch, trying to find the part of me that still wanted to fix this. I couldn't. I didn't even know if that part still existed. Does he know you're married? I asked. She hesitated. Yeah. Does he care? She let out a soft, bitter laugh. Not really. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. Couldn't be in the same room as her. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and stared out the window at the dark street. My reflection in the glass looked different. Older. Harder. Behind me, she spoke. What are you going to do? I turned slowly, not fully understanding what was happening. But one thing was clear. I wasn't staying here with Lena anymore. You don't get to talk me down, I said. You don't get to pull me back in with half apologies and tired excuses. I gave everything to this, to you, and you couldn't even give me honesty. She looked like she wanted to cry. I almost wished I could say I cared. I went upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and started tossing clothes into it. I didn't know where I was going. Maybe a friend's place, maybe a hotel. I just needed to get out. She followed me to the door, pleading. Please, she said, just stay. We can talk tomorrow. Please don't leave angry. I'm not angry, I replied, pulling the door open. I'm done. And I left. The air outside felt colder than before, or maybe that was just the shock wearing off. I walked to my truck, sat inside for a few minutes, and started the engine. My hands were steady, too steady. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know what this meant for the house, for the finances, for anything. All I knew was that something had broken tonight, and no matter how many times she said please, no matter how many tears she shed, there was no fixing it, not this time. I didn't have a destination in mind when I pulled out of the driveway. I just drove. The city lights faded behind me as the roads grew darker and quieter. I passed closed gas stations, empty shops, and the occasional diner still buzzing with late-night stragglers. Everything felt distant, like I was watching the world through a fogged-up window. Somewhere along the highway, I pulled into a rest stop, parked, and sat there with the engine off, staring at the steering wheel, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do next. It was maybe 3:45 in the morning when my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I didn't answer. Then a text came through. Come home. We need to talk. I'm sorry. Another one followed. I don't want this to end like this. Please. I set the phone face down. It wasn't that I didn't want answers. I just didn't trust any of hers anymore. There was something ugly about the whole thing, not just the cheating but the way she handled it, like I was just an old piece of furniture she had kept around too long and only noticed when she was redecorating. After a while, I started the truck again and drove toward the only place that made sense, my brother's house on the other side of town. Jake and I weren't especially close, but life had kept us on parallel tracks that rarely crossed. Still, he'd always said his couch was open if I ever needed it. I don't think either of us expected me to actually take him up on it. When I arrived, Jake answered the door, half asleep, rubbing his eyes, shirtless and confused. When he saw my face, he just stepped aside without a word. I crashed on the couch without explaining. I think he understood. The sun was already coming up by the time I finally passed out. Sleep hit me like a truck, heavy and cold. When I woke up, it was almost noon. Jake had left a note on the coffee table. Take what you need. Eggs in the fridge. Call if you want to talk. He was always a man of few words, but it meant more than I let on. I didn't eat. My stomach was in knots. I just sat there, scrolling through my phone, staring at the unread messages from Lena. There were 8 of them now. I'm scared. I didn't mean to hurt you. Can you at least come back so we can talk like adults? You're not blameless in this, Alex. You've been distant for a long time. You act like we're just roommates. That last one hit different, not because it wasn't true, but because she said it now when she was cornered, not when it could have mattered. I didn't respond. By the afternoon, I'd booked a consultation with a divorce attorney. I didn't know how any of this worked, and I hated the idea of turning something that was supposed to be sacred into a pile of paperwork and court dates. But the alternative was worse, letting it all sit and rot. If she wanted to act like this was a shared mistake, I was going to treat it like a business decision. That evening, I went back to the house. I needed clothes, files, the kind of stuff you forget about until it's gone. I half expected her to be waiting at the door with mascara running and some speech about love and second chances. But she wasn't. The house was quiet when I walked in, too quiet. She was in the kitchen, sitting at the table, her laptop open, a mug of tea in front of her. She looked up when she saw me. I could tell she'd been crying, but she didn't say anything. "I'm just here for my stuff," I said. "I'm just here for my stuff," I said flatly. She stood up slowly, as if she didn't want to scare me off. "Can we just talk for 5 minutes?" I didn't answer. I walked past her and up the stairs. As I packed, I heard her pacing below. Every now and then, I caught snippets of her voice like she was rehearsing what she was going to say. When I came back down with the duffel bag slung over my shoulder, she was waiting by the front door. "I ended it," she said. I paused. "With him?" I asked. She nodded. "It's over." I told him I couldn't keep doing this. I stared at her, searching her face for the version of her I used to know. "That's not the point," I said. "Then what is the point?" she asked. "The point is you lied for months, and you only ended it because you got caught." She opened her mouth, then closed it. I think she knew I was right. "I didn't want to lose you," she said after a beat. "You already did," I replied. She reached for me, lightly touching my arm. I flinched, not on purpose, it just happened. Her hand dropped like it had been burned. "I miss us," she whispered. I looked around the house, the framed photo from our anniversary, the throw pillows she picked out, the half-dead plant I kept forgetting to water. "There is no us," I said. "Not anymore." She watched me walk out the door but didn't follow. That night, I stayed at Jake's again. I sat on his back porch with a beer, staring at the crooked fence we had built together last summer. The time we'd laughed about it, said it gave the yard character. Now it felt like some metaphor I didn't want to think about. I thought about calling Max or Sarah, but they'd been at the bar that night, laughing with her. Not one of them had pulled me aside, not even to check if I was okay. That silence said everything. They'd picked their side before I even knew there was a line. The next day, I opened a new bank account and started transferring money over. I canceled the joint credit cards, called the lawyer back, and confirmed the appointment. It all felt surreal, like I was playing a part in someone else's life. I kept waiting to wake up, but I didn't. Later that afternoon, I got a call from Sarah that surprised me. I let it go to voicemail, but her message was short. "Call me, it's important." I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I called back, she answered on the first ring. "Alex," she said, her voice too even. "What do you want?" "I need to clear something up," she said. "You deserve to know." "Know what?" There was a pause. I knew what she meant. "About Lena," she said. I didn't say anything because she asked me not to. She said it was over and didn't want to blow up her life. I thought she meant it. I closed my eyes. "So you watched me sit there at that bar like a damn fool? You laughed with her while she humiliated me?" "I didn't laugh," she said, but it sounded weak. "I just didn't stop her." "That's the same thing," I snapped. She didn't argue. I hung up, and that was the moment it all clicked. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment or some drunken night that spiraled out of control. It was a pattern, a decision, a plan she'd made long before I ever saw the messages. And now it was my turn to make a plan of my own. The divorce finalized quicker than I expected. She didn't fight for the house, didn't contest anything, just signed and disappeared. I didn't ask where she went. Didn't care. One afternoon, she came by to collect a single box from the garage. No makeup. No apology. No drama. Just a nod. She didn't look me in the eye. After she left, I walked back into the house and stood there in the silence. No footsteps upstairs. No texts buzzing in the middle of the night. No perfume lingering in the hall. Just me. And it felt like breathing again after holding it in for too long. I started rebuilding my life piece by piece. The gym. Work. Catching up with old friends who hadn't picked a side. I wasn't happy yet, but I wasn't broken anymore either. Then one night I got a message from an unknown number. It was him, the guy she'd been seeing. He said he needed to talk. I met him out of curiosity more than anything. He looked wrecked, dark circles, nervous energy. He said she'd lied to him too. Told him the marriage was over long before it really was. He thought they had something real until she moved on to someone else 2 weeks after we split. I didn't say much. I just listened. And when he asked what he should do, I shrugged and walked away. That night, I stood on the balcony, beer in hand, watching the sky shift colors. For the first time, it felt like it was really over. Not just the marriage, but the grip she had on me. I wasn't what she left behind. I was what I chose to become after.